from your experience in all these years since social media came to prominence, what impact has social media had on depression overall, and what are the other triggers of depression in both young people and old?
The pressure of belonging. We all want to belong. We all want to be loved. We all want to be like other people.
Okay, my starters, as we well know, mental health is a very complex and complicated thing, but we have here someone who is going to simplify it for us, especially because we are lay persons and there's a lot of information that is going around here and there, but it's better to get the gist and the full knowledge and spectrum from somebody who's been in the field for a long time. So today we have a special guest. She's a clinical psychologist, man, she's well-rounded. She's a clinical psychologist, a researcher, an academic, and an executive coach. Her name is Dr. Mbali Dhlomo-Sibiya. She's also a wife, of course, married to a psychologist as well. So that means this thing of passion around mental health actually runs in the family. She's also a mother of 3. Her eldest being 32 years old, meaning I'm just a year older. So throughout this interview, if I say throughout the interview, then you understand why this is the case. But most importantly, based on the topic that we are discussing, we are talking clinical psychology. So she qualified and did her master's in 1999. So she has vast experience, 23 years in total, and of course, graduated her PhD in the year 2002. Welcome, Dimamzo. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. I am very well. Just saddened by, the alarming numbers of depression and suicide, but otherwise I'm very well. Yeah, I'm very well. The weather is cool in Irene, so I'm good.
Oh, Irene, I know Irene. Irene is a pretty tough place. So I'm lucky to have you on this platform, and I would like to start by establishing, because you've been in this field for so long, where does this passion of yours for mental health actually come from?
I actually, when I started studying it, it wasn't a passion as such. I just, I think I stumbled upon it, by default. My father wanted me to be a doctor. He wanted me to do MPCHP, but I was scared of blood. So, but when you are a child, us, we were born in the 60s. We complied with our parents wanted, and so when I was at varsity, actually I did not go straight to med school, so I went to varsity to do BSc. Which was called BSc Pre-Med, and I did not do well because I was not very interested. I used to go to dance and other activities, social activities, library. So I did not do well in my first semester. Those couple semester courses, if you fail the first semester course, then you can't continue. So I failed 2 of them. So now I was doing almost nothing now because I was used to attending 4 courses. So I just picked up psychology just to fill in to have that subject. I just filled in psychology. Psychology was an autonomous course. You could do it in the second. You could start it in the second semester. So I picked it up like that, and then it was nice. I enjoyed it and I passed it very well. So in the beginning of the following year, 1988, the professor for psychology, Professor Steve Edwards, was introducing us to psychology, and he talked about careers in psychology. So I said, wow, I've never heard of this. So I kept raising my hand, asking a lot of questions. Can I work in the hospital, Professor? And the professor said, yes, you can. Oh, okay. Then I started, ticking. I raised my hand again. Can I wear a white coat? And the professor laughed. And he said, if you want to. I said, doctor. And they said, yeah, if you've got PhD, yes, they will call you a doctor, but otherwise, other people would call you doctor just by virtue of you working in the hospital. So I said, I think my father will like this one. So I went straight to the admin and I modified the degree and I changed to BA, measuring in psychology and English. And then I told my dad afterwards, so of course he was angry, but I promised him that, don't worry, I'll get to a PhD. So I will be Dr. Dhlomo that you want. So that's how I stumbled upon it. So I think what I like about it is that you deal with the mind. Maybe I have a controlling personality. I don't know. But I like the fact that you help people. People rely on you. You carry people on your shoulders. That's what, when the professor was explaining that you assist people from mild to severe problems, and people will talk to you, and they would get help just by talk therapy. Is a talking. So I was fascinated, and then that's just how I came about it. But otherwise now, as I'm now working in the field, I'm very much fascinated about prevention. And while then, they say prevention is better than cure. So with me having an academic background, doing research and generating knowledge and assisting, other students to get their PhDs and masters, and, just sharing my knowledge. For me, to empower a person with knowledge so that they can be in charge of their lives and their journeys. For me, it's a big thing. And I've discovered, through studying especially community mental health, that depression has 3 levels. There is primary prevention, there's secondary prevention, and there's tertiary prevention. So primary prevention is when you prevent problems before they even start. And secondary prevention is when you have kind of earmarked what the problem is, and then you start having those awareness, campaigns, and, assisting minimally those who are kind of affected, but not that much. And then tertiary prevention is when you are doing treatment. So it is still prevention, but it's more at a tertiary level where you are giving treatment. Of people that are having now severe mental health disorders, where you now even admit them at the hospital and you see them as a team, So it's very nice to work within a team and knowing that this person is getting holistical, assistance from a psychiatrist, from a clinical psychologist, from a social worker sometimes, because sometimes we do need a social worker in our team, from the nurses, from the groups, which means now from other patients as well, and as well as from occupational therapy. Sometimes there are physios that are involved, sometimes biokineticists. So there is whole lot of members of the team while we are helping the patients so that we can also, assist from all these dimensions, psychosocial, clinical, biological. So we become holistic, because depression does not have one cause, but it has got, it has got many causes.
100%. So if I may jump in here, so your passion then ventured into the preventive landscape, and then you made mention of the team that you work with at particular levels, right? And you are a clinical psychologist. Maybe for the benefit of those that are watching, and for my benefit as well, what would differentiate you from a psychiatrist when dealing with mental health?
All right. A psychiatrist is a doctor. It's a medical doctor who did her MPhD or another degree, and then after they qualified, then they specialized in psychiatry. So usually what you find that with the medical model that we are using in hospitals, they are the ones that head the team, that lead the team and coordinate all the activities and the assessments that are being done. They order the tests. They are the ones that admit the patient. They're the ones that also discharge the patient. They prescribe medication. They also refer to the whole team according to what they feel that the patient needs. But sometimes they also coordinate the meetings. Yeah, so they order the bloods, they would order the scans, they would refer to a social worker, things like that. So they are the leading and the coordinating. So with clinical psychologists, then what we deal with the emotional, the psychological, emotional side, where we assist them, we give the skills, we empower the patient with skills, we listen, we spend much more time because for example, myself, I usually spend a minimum of 60 minutes, and then it depends. I think with Black people who have never been to psychologists, you find yourself spending a whole lot of much more time than people who are.
It's new to us, yeah.
Yes, it's something that is new to us. So you find that you've had a lot of childhood trauma that we've never, ever talked about, and you are 58 years old. So we are 58 and you come across a psychologist this one time. So you find that the 2 hours is not even enough.
No, I like that. So now diving into the realm of mental illness itself, but specifically depression, what would then make depression the most prominent one of all mental illnesses? When I was researching for this interview and reading, I saw it is quite prominent, and people also sometimes think of it interchangeably with mental illness as a whole. So what gives depression specifically that amount of power?
I think it is because of its severity, and its debilitating effect on people. As of March 2017, the World Health Organization declared depression as the most common mental illness, as the most common mental illness, and it topped the list cause of all ill health. So in other words, from depression arises other psychosomatic illnesses, like, for example, body aches, headaches, back pain. A lot of other illnesses will tend then to emanate from depression, especially when it is not being attended to. When a person is not treating depression, you find that there will be other physical illnesses. So usually it's easy for us to attend to the physical illness because it's something that is very common and it's accepted to go to a GP. And then when the GP then sees that you keep on coming with this headache, or your your diabetes is no longer responding to the medication, your BP is always high, you are always reporting this headache that doesn't go down, you are reporting that you can't sleep at night, you're reporting that you've got insomnia or hypersomnia, you're reporting that you've got changes in appetite and all those things. Then the doctor will say, but I've been giving you medication for these symptoms, but it's not getting better. Can you then go to see a psychologist? Can I send you to a psychologist for another type of assessment to see whether you don't have? So in other words, you find that it leads to a lot of physical illnesses. So therefore, it is one of the highest causes of illnesses.
And what exactly is depression?
Depression is a disorder which is predominantly characterized by sadness. We usually diagnose depression when a person has reported that they've had sadness, or sometimes you find that it can prolong, the period of sadness can prolong to about 2 weeks, and then a person gets better again, and then it starts again, prolongs for 2, maybe, so with those bouts of, 2 weeks, 2 week chunks of 2 weeks of sadness and and then tiredness, lethargy, negativity, inability to be happy, you just can't be happy, and you lack interest.
Is the happiness aspect now related? Like, for example, we are all humans, so there's a point in time where we are all unhappy. So that unhappiness, we all get exhausted. When does it get to a point where one can say, "Hey, I'm depressed"? Because people self-diagnose a lot.
As I'm saying, when we look at different symptoms, not just sadness, but then again, the sadness there will last for longer. There's a difference between the blues, just the blues, there are those days when you just feel like, you know what, today I just don't even feel like going to work, and I'm a bit down, and you feel like maybe I'm gonna hear bad news. When you feel like that, but I feel sad. It's like I'm gonna hear some bad news, and then you snap out of it. If I can use that word, you snap out of it. But the one for depression, prolonged. It's a sadness that you just can't snap out of it. You still wake up sad the following day. You are tired. You can't eat. You lack motivation. You find that the things that usually interest you, people will say, like, I also try when I'm treating a person and say, all right, what are the activities that if you do them, they lift your spirits? Then the person says, I can't think of anything, So even if you try to let's say maybe you interview a family member, and then you find, oh no, usually music gets them, gets them high. Then you try to make them listen to music, but still they can't.
It's not working.
It's not working. Then you know that there is now chemical imbalance. Because there is a neurobiological component to depression.
Okay, so essentially those symptoms you mentioned are what can help us recognize whether we personally are depressed. Now, moving it, for example, you have a 16-year-old. So what would be the key things that you would look at in teenagers to help recognize whether they are facing bouts of depression?
All right. For example, as I said, persistent sadness is definitely one of them. But then with children and teenagers, they are very good at masking the sadness. They have a way of masking sadness, so they will smile. It's only a parent who knows their child very well that will pick up that this person is just masking. So there'll be sadness, there'll be loss of interest in activities that normally young people enjoy, and especially this particular person. Also, loss of energy. They sleep a lot sometimes. Usually they isolate themselves, they close themselves in their rooms. And also the clothes that they wear, the colors, they wear much more duller colors. Usually they like covering themselves. Like, for example, they would wear a hooded, they would prefer hooded jackets with darker colors or dull colors like gray, black, brown, and they're not interested. And sometimes we find the change in appetite. It can be high or it can be low. Sometimes you find the change in sleeping habits where they either sleep a lot or they don't sleep at all. You find that if you're checking them maybe on WhatsApp, you find that they're online. If you go to their rooms, you find that there's a phone under the cover. They are chatting to people under the cover. So if they are on Facebook, you find that maybe they're posting on Facebook or Instagram, at 1 a.m. in the morning. So that person is not sleeping. And sometimes we find that they are very anxious. So although some others can mask, they try to hide the anxiety. But you will see, if you are very careful, then you will see some signs of anxiety. Like, for example, they won't want maybe to go to school. Maybe they will try to avoid tests at school. They get sick just before a test. They don't know that, okay, maybe there is anxiety. So you'll see them. There are what is it called? Some body gestures that show that the person is anxious, and they will have those rituals that calm them down. Maybe they rock themselves, so they will need, and they sweat. You find that they sweat a lot. So maybe you see them going, the trips to the toilet increasing much more. Then you can pick up those very subtle signs. Sometimes they will tell you that they are feeling worthless, or they will tell their friends, or their posts will show that they are feeling worthless. And also they've got a lot of guilt sometimes. And if a person has not had any problem with concentration and memory, you would find that if you are very much in tune with maybe the teacher, the educators will also tell you that your child is presenting with a very reduced attention span and poor concentration in school. And also when you ask them about maybe future plans or what they want to eat, whether they want to go out or not, if you want them to go out, you want them to choose the restaurant, they are very indecisive. They can't really, make a decision. They feel helpless. They easily feel helpless. If they are trying something and something is not working, they easily give up. And if those things are uncharacteristic of them, then you can pick up, the feelings of hopelessness. Some will verbalize that they have thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Self-harm may include taking pills, or they'll mention things like, I wish I could rest forever. I wish I could just disappear. Those words, we need to start now taking them, more seriously than before.
Yeah, and pay attention to them. So in essence, it's about those subtle nuances that we pay little attention to at the end of the day. You mentioned earlier on the issue of them being under the covers, for example, on social media and the like. From your experience in all these years since social media came to prominence, what impact has social media had on depression overall, and what are the other triggers of depression in both young people and old?
The pressure of belonging. We all want to belong. We all want to be loved. We all want to be like other people. When your consciousness is at a level of, there are different levels of consciousness, So if the person is still functioning at a level of consciousness, which we call the mass level of consciousness, so people would want to be like other people, I remember when I was at primary school, my school was about 2 kilometers away, and we used to walk to school. So at home, they gave me shoes and socks to wear to school, but all my friends were walking barefoot. So I took off my shoes and hid them, in the forest. It was on the way, and my socks, I just leave them there. When I go back home, I pick up my school shoes. So we want to belong, and sometimes we overdo it. So there is this pressure which affects both young people and old people, which is in the social media. So if you are a person who is not, who has got a high appetite, for things, if I can say that, you can easily get pressure, people will take beautiful pictures and they will say that they are taking these pictures from their homes. And you will see a beautiful double-story home, which you have not been able to achieve. And you are looking at the pictures of your classmates that you used to go to high school with. So the person will take pictures next to their pool, and they will be going out with their husbands and their children. They're such a cute family. They're driving a nice car, and then you say, "Ish, I am so behind." you know. So then it will depend how much that matters to you. If you are at a point, at a space, you know, if you are functioning at a space where what other people are doing does not bother you, you are not going to be pressured. But if what other people are doing is able to pressurize you, then you can be pressurized. So in other words, peer pressure is not something that is only for young people. So even us, the under 60s, we also can succumb to peer pressure, you know, because now I will say that I will look at myself and find myself that I am behind my peers. They've achieved so much and I have not achieved, you know, that much. Then I would say that I also want to have that double story with all those stairs and all those cars and all, you know. So then you will find yourself trying and trying and trying, and if you can't reach that level, then you can be very discouraged. You know, about
so pressure is one of the main triggers. What additional triggers can it be? Because I read that it's finances, it's broken relationships. What other triggers can they be?
Yes, the losses. Yeah, any loss. And we don't perceive loss in the same way. And we, you know what? There are losses that you may think are just, you know, minor losses, but I may look at them as major losses. You know, I always make an example of myself and pens and beautiful pens. I love beautiful pens, and I buy, you know, very pricey pens, and I love the pen. So if I lose a pen, I grieve. You know, you may not love a dog or pet, but there are people who love pets and they even take, you know, medical aids for their pets, they take insurances for their pets. So if they lose a pet, it's a major thing. You know, the loss of, you know, spouses, loss of friends, you know, small, you know, sometimes other people other people find it very hard to make friendships or to make relationships. So if I move from East Rand to Irene, for example, and then my children lose friends, they might be depressed by that because now they have lost their friends, they can't play with their friends anymore. And where we are now, they have to start now struggling, battling to make friends, you know? So, but the reason why I'm moving there, maybe I'm moving from Kempton Park to Irene because I found maybe a better place, or maybe it's a worse place. Maybe because of COVID, I lose my job or I lose my business, then I need to downscale, you know. So there are many factors that could, you know, some people are triggered by just knowing that somebody died out of suicide out there, and it triggers them, and they say it could have been me because I've been depressed for quite a long time, so it could have been me. So there are many triggers, but we need to understand that, as I said, we need to look at depression as an interface between neurology and psychiatry. So we now look at it as a neuropsychiatric disorder, if I can look at it that, if I can use that way, or neuropsychological disorder as well, because now what happens is that I'm not sure if you have any biology at all.
Yes. I'm an environmental health practitioner by profession. So yeah.
All right. Yeah. So you will remember that there was a word called synapse in biology. Yes, we used to say synapse is a junction between two neurons. So what happens is that messages or impulses are generated by, you know, any disturbance, and then that disturbance will start now, you know, making the neurons to fire in order to send messages. But the sending of messages is a neurochemical thing, because it's an electrochemical process, because there's an electrical charge, plus there are some chemicals that have to be there. So if there's any shortage of the chemicals, then it means that the neurons are not going to, the messages are not going to be passed from one neuron to another, because in your central nervous system, there has to be that continuous communication between neurons. So if your neuron, for example, if your synapse, for example, is reuptaking your serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter. If your chemical patterns there is reuptaking your serotonin, which is a happy hormone, we're going to be sad because there is no serotonin, because it also is a chemical that is released. You know, when you are thinking positive and something good is happening, so that serotonin, the brain releases that serotonin into the synapses. But if I'm overthinking, I'm thinking about something that has been happening, that has happened in my life, I'm ruminating, and maybe I'm feeling guilty about something that I've done, and I'm not happy with my behavior or my performance, then that's going to affect the serotonin there at the synapse. So that is going to make me sad, because now, and it also affects the passage of these the messages. Also, again, there's another one which is called norepinephrine, which then it's shortage there. If it's reuptaken, then you find that there will be, I'll have, lack of energy. I'll be very lethargic. Dopamine also must be there also as well. So
that happy hormone,
if those chemicals are short or they are too much, then it can lead to mental disorders.
So it goes back to that chemical imbalance as well.
It goes back to that chemical imbalance, which then has to be corrected by the antidepressants.
Okay.
But the thinking, the negative thinking, which we are all susceptible to, because you know what, the negative thoughts are more automatic than the positive thoughts. It's much more easier to think negatively.
True.
If you are driving and somebody hoots, the first thing that comes to your mind would be much more negative than a positive one.
100%.
So
the exposure also. So the exposure also
to the news, the negative news, the wars, and so the loss of job then will lead to a loss of livelihood, and it will cause you much more anxiety. How am I going to feed my children? And the more you say, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? That leads to more failure. So it becomes then a spiraling, cycle, which is not good for your mental health.
Okay, so I want us to assist people, particularly those that have been affected by COVID, because you made several examples in terms of losses. What can be done? What practical things can be done to help them get out of this rut in one way or another, no matter how sad they may feel at this point in time, maybe in an effort to understand what they are going through right now? What is a simple steps that they can take right now to deal with that depression? Obviously, once it's clinical, then it goes into your hands and those that are experts. But someone who just has viewed this video and understands a bit from the fountain of knowledge that you've basically shared.
I think the most important thing when it comes to dealing with the global pandemic like COVID, for example, the first thing in order for you to rise up again is to understand there is a universal law which is called the law of what do they call it? It's the law of reason. That life is a series of ups and downs. Life is a series of ebb and flow. The tide goes in and the tide goes out.
Yes.
It's just like there's day and night, and there's spring, summer, autumn, and winter. For me, that's how I've survived. To know that this is my winter. I am going to, when it is winter, I just need to change the clothes that I'm wearing. I just need to wear, when it's winter, what do we do with our summer clothes? We put them away. When it's summer, we put our winter clothes away. So winter came, and I don't want to lie to you. For 2 months, I was paralyzed. You know, when it started, for 2 months, I was paralyzed. I was anxious. I was afraid.
So it affects everyone, even a professional like you, essentially.
I was afraid. I was called right, left, and center to the hospital to come and see people in ICU. I said, "Who me? Nah? I'd rather have no money. I'm not going." You know? So then you get to a point where your savings are depleted, and you are saying, you say to yourself, "Yay, man, my children are gonna go hungry. I've got a skill, and people need me out there. Let me stand up." So I sat down and I gave myself knowledge about my immune system. Remember that there was no cure, there was no vaccine, there was nothing.
Yes.
So the only thing that I had, I said to myself, this doubt is coming from lack of knowledge about myself, you know, and about my, you know, my immune system. So I said to myself, let me find a way to get rid of this anxiety. Because from anxiety, definitely you are going down, escalating. You're going deep into depression. You're going to be, you know, at dis-ease. You're going to go down to disintegration. You're going to die. So I said to myself, you know, let me equip myself maybe with knowledge about the immune system. How strong is my immune system, and how can I, you know, strengthen it even further? So I was, you know, Matt, I discovered a lot about my immune system. I said, because the first thing that I encountered was the skin is very protective. And then when these viruses, the virus will only enter through the nose and the eyes and the mouth. I said, okay, then I got it. I'm gonna wear masks and I'm gonna go there. And fortunately, I wear glasses, but they were also, you know, when you get to the hospital, they also give you this as part of your
the goggles,
you wear as well. So I used to make sure that I'm wearing those goggles and my PPE and my mask, 3 masks, and what kind of mask I would wear. I know that at that time it was an exaggeration, but for me, it gave me the comfort to say,
a sense of security.
A sense of security. So I think we need to get more knowledge, because knowledge is empowering. So when I read about the immune system and I read that, you know what, I'm super safe. I just said to myself, you know what, I am super safe and I'm going there. And I went there. I remember this one time I saw a patient on a particular, I think it was a Tuesday. And then it was okay. And then the following day, when I came to see the patient again, then the nurses were making all the fuss about, you know, me wearing PPE. And I asked, but I saw this patient yesterday, what's wrong now? I know we have tested him, he's COVID positive. I'm telling you, I sat in front of that patient, within 5 minutes, I was sick. I was coughing, my throat was sore. Why? It was anxiety.
Yeah.
Faster than COVID, and that can kill you faster than a bullet. So I got sick, and I said, but I was able to say to myself, "Mbali, you are crazy. You saw this patient yesterday, you did not get sick. Why are you getting sick today?" So, but other people do not have that, you know, ability to ask themselves that, is this true? Are you being rational? You know, because anxiety can be rational or it can be irrational. So I was having irrational anxiety at that time. So I composed myself, I got my act together. Instead of me concentrating on my own anxiety, I inquired of my patient about her own anxiety. How is anxiety now that you have tested as you know, positive? How are you feeling? And I was able to allay the anxiety of that patient, because I was using my own anxiety that I was feeling inside, and I said, "Oh my gosh, it means this person is much more anxious than myself," you know. And I didn't get sick.
Nice. So knowledge is one thing that they can empower themselves. They need to go through the information, empower themselves. What else? Can diet play a role? What else?
exercise.
Exercise, yeah.
Yes, exercise. Talking to other people who are positive. Try to surround yourself with people who are very negative. We are the sum total of the people that are around us. Whether we're talking about,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, whether we're talking about money, we're talking about health, we're talking about progress, success. We are the sum total of the 5 people that are around. We are around us. So you try to move away from environments that are getting you down. Once you see, I know that misery likes company, but
yeah.
Yeah, so if you are not there yet, try to get away from people who are negative by all means. Yeah.
No, nice. I like that very much.
The diet also. I think the diet. I'm not a dietitian, so I wouldn't say a lot, but I know that sugar is not a very good component. Yeah, sugar is also not a very good component. But we also need to reassess our beliefs. Yes, the beliefs that we have, they can kill us. There are beliefs that you find which the belief, it's just a destructive belief. Yeah. So I think anyone, the support from your loved ones is very, very, very important. Yeah. I you know what? One of my brothers lost a wife. So for me, it's important to make sure that I call him. I call him, and if possible, WhatsApp video, whatever. I need to see him. I need to ask him, how do you feel? As a psychologist, I don't want my brother to say, I'm unhappy. I've been unhappy since my wife died. I can't read. I'm down, feeling down, or I'm tired. So when he says anything, that I think it's an alarm for me. I'll say, yeah, go and consult. So we need people to be afraid. To not be afraid.
Yeah.
People must not say that depression is a sign of weakness. People must not say that anxiety is a sign of weakness. Anybody can be anxious. Actually, our emotions, we must listen to our emotions. We must listen. There's this inner conversation that keeps going on and on and on. So you need to listen to that conversation. It tells you where you are. Feelings are natural. They were created by God to tell us, to communicate to us what our thoughts are, where our thoughts are going. I always say that the feelings or emotions are a scan or they are a compass. Sometimes we can say they are prophecies. Our feelings will tell, like for example, fear. When you are afraid, you know that there's something not right where I am. There was one time when I just had that fear, and then I even said to my husband, I think there's a snake here. He said, why would you say there's a snake? And I said, this is one thing that I fear a lot. So after a few days, my son saw, I don't know what you call it, that skin that peels off a snake.
Yeah, once they shred the skin.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. I saw that skin shed in that very same place. Then I said, yeah, you see, that's why I was afraid. It means that there was a snake.
Yeah, 100%.
So the emotions, they are a natural way of God's way of telling you, of giving you some messages, but you need to read them well, and you must not allow them to control you. So if you are having, for example, depression sometimes is also indicated by irritability and anger. That's one thing that is also very important, especially in men and children. Women may not get that angry, but we also do have women that get very angry when they are depressed. But men especially, and small children as well. And so we need to be careful when we have people, let's say, for example, there's been death in the home, and then we find these people who are angry, and there's a lot of conflicts. People are they're fighting, constantly fighting at home. Then you must know that we are being affected by the death. And we might be spiraling towards depression, even if we have not reached depression, but we are spiraling towards depression. So people then need to learn how to manage their emotions. And one of the ways of managing emotions is that you need to regulate your emotions. How do you regulate your emotion? It's as simple as breathing, controlling your breathing. So you take control of your emotions by breathing, by controlling your breathing. Because the emotions, like let's say, talk anger, for example. If I am angry, it means this anger is at an emotional level, but it also causes a brain fog. In other words, I cannot interpret the threats rationally, because now this brain fog, this emotion it short circuits my brain. So I need now to be able to if this was the hind brain and this is the forebrain, where the cerebral cortex. So and the emotion is felt here, more towards the back. So I need to regulate that emotion by breathing. It relaxes you. It even causes cognitive relaxation. It does not just relax your body, but it even causes cognitive relaxation. Then the threat can then now have a chance to be rationalized, or to be reinterpreted or reframed by the frontal cortex, where then you are told, man, it's not so much of a threat, man. It's just anxiety, just continue working. Then you continue working, which is what I did when I was in front of the patient. I took a deep breath, and to justify why I was breathing, I asked the patient, how is your anxiety? He said it's very high. So I said, okay, let me teach you some breathing exercises. So we did breathing exercises together. I was attending
which
to
benefited the both of you now. Yeah.
Then you start thinking rationally and say, hey, collect yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And when all else fails, now that's their opportunity to then consult. People should not shy away from consulting and speaking to you as professionals, right? Especially because when they don't consult, or when all else have failed, and a number of them have spiraled beyond now the depression or other mental health illnesses into the realm of not only thinking about suicide, by attempting suicide. So with the little time that we have left, can you maybe talk about why suicide is such at an all-time high in this day and age?
I think usually people would get to that point of, remember when I was counting the signs of depression, I mentioned helplessness. If I did mention it,
no, you did.
If I didn't mention it, then I must point out that one of the signs of suicide, or signs of depression, is helplessness. Another one is hopelessness. Another one is feelings of low self-worth and a lot of guilt. Those ones are the risk factors.
Can we throw loneliness in there as well?
Yeah, loneliness. Because remember, when a person is depressed, they usually lose interest in the activities and they withdraw to themselves. They socially. Depression affects you emotionally, cognitively, and socially, and even physically. So all those aspects, they have a way of saying, you start, entertaining those irrational beliefs that say you are not worthy. You know, sense of self-worth just drops.
Mm.
So once you're feeling guilty and your sense of self-worth is dropped and you have got no one around you, then you are going to say, hey, it's better if I do away with myself, you know. And one of the questions that usually arises is why men kill themselves more. Why do we see a higher rate of males committing suicide than females? And there could be many reasons, but the two most important ones is one, the stigma, the perceived stigma when it comes to men about mental health or mental illness. They are not likely to go and consult in as much as females do. Even see the beds that are allocated to males and females in the hospitals, even private ones, they are not equal, because we see less of men consulting because of, you know, these tigers don't cry, you know, men must be strong, men, you cannot consult a psychologist. So in other words, one has to confront those irrational beliefs and say, I am going to change these beliefs. I am a man, but I am going to talk about my depression. I'm going to consult somebody to talk about my depression, all right? So that is one reason. The second one is that men are likely to use a lethal weapon than females. Females will use pills, will use poisons, and sometimes you find that because the poison is slower, it will start showing, you know. So men will use, they just hang themselves. They are much more braver. So they will hang themselves, or shoot themselves, or you know what, things like that. But with women, they will use less lethal weapons, but mostly it's because we are able to cry for help rather than not cry for help, grind their teeth. My father used to grind his teeth. You would know that my father is stressed because he would grind his teeth. You would hear him grinding teeth from another room, you know. So I'm not sure whether, now I'm assuming now that maybe he was stressed. Yeah.
No, that's very interesting, because indeed, you know, the young man who passed away, that hip hop artist Ricky Rick, you know, he touched a lot of us, not necessarily only through his music, but through the character that he portrayed and was consistently portraying throughout his life. And that's what triggered a lot of this conversation, you know, a lot of this conversation. But now I'm very worried about the fact that, like anything else, something trends, then we talk about the subject, we want the information out there, and then afterwards, what happens is that it dies down, right? The energy dies down. So my question to you, Doc, is how do we keep this conversation going? What are the tools that can be used to keep this conversation going?
I think we need to, we as health professionals need to keep the conversation going. And we are, I must say to you, we are doing something about it. Me and psychiatrists that I work with, we are just organizing a seminar which is entitled Conversation. Okay, no, it's not. That's not the title. The title says before he or she committed suicide, because we want to put it out there. What are the signs that people can see? We are hoping to get maybe somebody who has tried suicide and failed, rather was found out and found help, and maybe someone who is also whose relative died of suicide. We want to, and then because I am a psychologist and my friend is a psychiatrist, we're hoping that then we'll be able to answer questions as to you know, what happened. So we'll be doing it at 𝐿𝐼𝐻 on the 28th of May this year. And there will be, but I think I will tell you more about it as the plans are unfolded. But we have found
excellent.
we have secured the venue for the 28th of May. So I think that's what we need to do, you know, because you do find that suicide does not only affect people who are struggling. There are people who are not struggling financially, but they are lonely. You know, they've got money, but they are very lonely, and they still have those feelings of self-worth. They are still feeling guilty. You know, they are still feeling hopeless. Even so, in other words, money does not mean that they don't have problems. So we're having it there at 𝐿𝐼𝐻, and we are hoping that it will be the 1st of May. Last year we had a seminar in Newcastle, and that was end of October, and we also had a lot of people that have. It was entitled "Living Victoriously." It's on YouTube now. I saw the.
Oh, nice.
It's on YouTube now. If you say "Living Victoriously with Mental Illness," you can add that link to your channel, so that
I'll do that.
I was an MC on that day, but I also talked about my because I have ADHD. Kids that grow up with ADHD, they are criticized a lot, because when you have ADHD, you become erratic. So it's easy for a child who has ADHD to be suicidal, because they are constantly criticized. Everything that is wrong is their fault. And the teachers don't bother to ask who did that. They would say, "It's you. I know it's you. I know it's you. You know, this is like you." So when you are constantly being bombarded with such criticism and being blamed all the time, that you have to take blame for everything that happens, obviously you are going to feel down. So I talked about it, although there was a person who was also talking about ADHD. We had a person talking about ADHD, a person who had bipolar, we had a person with depression who had been suicidal, and we had a person who had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So all can lead to suicide. We do remember the case of the teenager who was being bullied, you know, and because that video went viral, it was all over. That child ended up, you know, dying by suicide. Why? She couldn't face the peers, and she was at an age which is a critical age of trying to find out who am I. So in that way, then she ended up, you know, committing suicide. You know, so those are the risk factors that we could say maybe they you know, they can lead one to suicide. If you have no one to listen to you, it's easy for you to get to that point. And when you do come across a person who says, "I want to commit suicide," I think the first thing that we do, we judge them. We say, "You can't do that. Things can't be that bad. You can't tell me things like that, because I am the one that
life.
It is my life." So the best that we can do as relatives, as friends, as caring friends, as professionals, is to say, "Okay, I hear you. Yes, it is one of the options, but can we also add some other options, so that then you can see, so that then this person can see that there are other options." Because when a person runs out of options, that's a problem, when a person is pushed to a corner and then they resort to doing away with themselves.
I'm so happy that.
Hello, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm so happy that besides just doing the physical seminars, you are using a platform such as YouTube, because this video is also going on YouTube on my channel, right? So I'm so glad, because then it gets to reach more people, and that's the conversation we're talking about, that it doesn't just end at that intervention, but a person a year from now still has that opportunity to watch the message and learn and apply some of the practical things you were saying, and also to say, I am not alone.
Yes.
Dr. Sibiya
Yes.
said, I am not alone, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
No, 100%, 100%.
I've been through, when I lost my mother, I thought the world had ended, you know? But those are the things that you rise up from. So when you hear other people saying, I rose up from it, you know? So then you can say, oh, maybe there is hope. So we need to give each other hope through these conversations. We need, I do have some few radio stations that I do give my community time to. I would say that it's community outreach.
Yes.
We do those kinds of talks where we encourage people, you know.
Don't worry, this is my YouTube
us.
channel, so you can mention the channels. You can mention them. Don't worry. Yeah, you can mention.
Okay. Yeah, the YouTube channel. What is the name of your channel?
It starts with You Network with less.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah. You know, we need to have this conversation, these talks, and educate people. As I said before, that, you know, knowledge, the education, it empowers you, and at least it makes you take a step back and you say, "Hi, you know what? Because this person did that, you know, and they rose up, then it means I can do it too." You know, then people give it a try.
No, 100%. Remember what I told you. I said it's going to be longer than an hour, and indeed it proved true. So thank you for affording us the opportunity by actually even making a plan. You know, I'm so inspired by the fact that you made an instant plan when the phone did what it did, you know, so that we could finish this powerful conversation and this powerful message that people need and deserve to hear. So thank you very much, Dr. Sibiya. Please, for the benefit of all those listening and who may need additional interventions through your counseling and through your services, please, I'm giving you the platform to let them know how can they reach you.
Okay, you can reach my office number. I'm using a cell phone at the moment, which is 082 53 7491. My main office is in Kempton Park, but I do consult through Zoom, WhatsApp video, or Teams.
Okay, wonderful. Please repeat that number again, just in case it was breaking somewhere.
082 563 7491. Then Asanda will attend to you then.
Okay, nice. And then maybe your physical office address also in your main office in Kempton Park.
My main, yeah, it's 20 Central Avenue, number 20
nice.
In Kempton Park.
20 Central Avenue.
It's close to Shell Garage.
Okay, wonderful.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you for the invite, and I enjoyed the talk that we had.
Thank you so much. And we'll probably have many more in the future. As we said, we don't want the conversation to end, but people must always realize that it starts with them.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sero.
Thank you so much, Doc. Cheers. God bless.
Bye.
Bye. So what I'll do, I'll have Dimamzo back on this platform. You heard the powerhouse that she is, and the education and knowledge that she's garnered over the years has reflected in her sharing the information and knowledge with the rest of us. For now, I thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, everything starts with you. And I hope the practical lessons and some of the things that she touched on actually help you in your journey and fight against depression and other mental illnesses. I wish you only the best. I love you guys, and stay blessed. Cheers.